Hello and welcome to the AnsweRED podcast. My name is Paweł Burza, and as always, I am joined by my friend and co-host, Sebastian Kalemba.
Hello, we're going to talk about the art with the one and only Alena Dubrovina, who's an art director at Larian, and with Émilie Beauchamp, who's associate art director at Warner Brothers Montreal.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting episode. I can't wait for you to check it out. So let's jump straight into it. All right, Alena, Émilie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Let's start off very, very easily. Some basic stuff, just like a warm-up. Please introduce yourselves. We know stuff about you, but it's kind of more for the person listening so they can get, they can hear your voice.
Well, I can start.
Go for it.
Hello, my name is Alena. I'm art director at Larian Studios currently, and I used to be lead character artist on our last project, which was Baldur's Gate 3.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right. And my turn. I'm Émilie Beauchamp. I am associate art director at WB Games Montreal, and I've been working at Warner for a long time now. I work on a couple of games, the Arkham series, Injustice, and Mortal Kombat, and most recently Gotham Knights.
Nice.
Awesome. So let's talk about the art. We would love to actually ask you, how do you communicate with the art? Because you have an IP, actually completely different IPs, right? Here we have, fantasy world, and here we have Gotham, which is more grounded, and there is an IP, and there's also some expectations from the market from that IP. And how do you actually set the boundaries? How do you communicate with your art? How do you set the vision for the art? And I know it's a broad term. We can talk forever about this.
We can take it any direction you want. So
any direction. So whatever comes to your mind, just let's follow that thought.
Well, I think it's important not to constrain yourself within the IP. It's important to think what kind of project you're working on and what do you want to achieve with it. What do you want to give to the player, right? Because after all, we're making a game. And it's obviously important to keep your IP holder happy, right? And not cross any boundaries. But then I think for each project, those boundaries are different. So if we look at our production on Baldur's Gate 3, we basically had a lot of freedom. So we didn't have to kind of run back and forth to check every little single thing. But we also, we felt responsible kind of for, portraying the art in the right way. And we kind of just follow our gut feeling and did the best we could.
You can actually feel it, right? Because when we were talking with Sebastian, Baldur's Gate is such a game, especially for us, that kind of defined us as gamers. And when we played the third installment, it's it's like a comfortable pair of shoes that you easily slip into. It's perfect, but it also, it feels perfect, but it's new also. So it's I feel like you always need to be going a step further.
Yeah.
But it needs to still kind of feel like, okay, this is something that I know, but it's just more.
I would say it was extremely hard to actually work with something like that. It had has a lot of legacy still, because everyone basically know what D&D is. Everyone played at home. They have homebrew rules, and then you have a pile of books of rule sets and all of those really small things you need to watch out for. And then everyone in the room is gonna say something different, and they would say that's what we did in our D&D campaign, so it got to be right? And then they're like, well, that's not actually in the books, And we did a lot of changes with art and with some of the actual rule set changes to translate it in the game to improve your player experience ultimately. But from the visual point as well, it's just we can't keep doing the same thing, right? If Baldur's Gate 2, literally as it was, would be released right now, it would be completely differently received. So you gotta watch out indeed for what's popular now, what how do people play? What do they want? How do games look now? And you kind of got to integrate that.
So you don't have the like outdated feel of it, but you feel like it's an improvement, it's a step in the right direction, like improving the whole thing.
Yeah, because it's really easy actually to make an outdated thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, basically, there is a lot of D&D art already exists, and we looked at it. And yeah, sometimes it takes a lot of time to just try to like re-envision it, translate it. But if you just would model it as is, it wouldn't look like PG does.
Yeah.
So like what I spotted, let's follow that a little bit, because what I really spotted as a player while playing Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm a huge fan of 1 and 2, like one of these games that made me. There was a huge focus around the player agency. So even in comparing it, like the player agency, generally in Baldur's Gate was always a big thing. I felt that I'm playing literally a session in an RPG session. But what you actually came with when it comes to design, art that is more compelling, and even the amount of romances, I believe, like there were people been following the string and they were pulling the string, and we got it for you. And I think that is a great achievement when it comes to fulfilling so many fantasies, because so many players, and they feel that the fantasy they've been picking was actually fulfilled, and so you've been thinking about that. I was wondering like how to actually create a character design event that first of all serves the sentiment players, but also stands on top of now player expectations, because the characters are still stylized, but they are the cinematics, for example, that you improved are great. The performance capture and all this kind of stuff, right? So can you tell us a little bit about this challenge? How challenging it was to make the sweet spot happening?
So we actually changed design direction, well, at least 2 times, and it was like not just polished, but it was like complete turnaround. And at first we tried more stylized approaches, like I would say even cartoony approach, to match it closer to what we see in D&D books and D&D art. Then we tried a little bit of more realistic, grounded approach, but then still keeping the stylized feel. Hard to describe, easier to show, I guess. And then we did some trials with cinematics, and we thought it's going to the right direction, but we still weren't happy. And throughout those trial and errors, like I remember I talked to a fellow character artist in our team, and he was working on the heads, and he was prototyping a lot. And I think it was already half a year in, and he was just working on heads, and it was like, you're getting there. It's like, no, it's not there. And then he was like kind of close to his limit already. But some of his heads we were very happy with. And then we were like, so, like, how do you evolve your style? Because like we see that there is a difference. Like we started here and now we're here. And he was like, you know what? I don't know. I just try to make it as realistic as possible, and I end up somewhere. So, yeah, that was how it started, basically, So, there was no concrete plan. In the pre-production, we're just exploring. In the pre-production, we're trying things. We have no idea, like where we want to be. We're like, I want to make something cool, but we don't know how.
That's the whole thing about the iterative process, right? You keep on going until you find something that works, right?
Exactly. Like looking for the vision. Let's park it for now for a second, because getting back to it later, like as soon as you set boundaries, set the framing, set rules. Let's talk about rules in a second.
Yeah.
Let's jump into the Gotham City. Maybe.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, it's starting a project, any project, it's important to fall in love with the brand or the franchise, and then you can really immerse yourself in all the reference material. And, for Gotham, there's many versions.
Many Gotham.
Many versions.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all of them as something cool, but there's also, as you said, some rules that you can extract, and with the new game you're making, extracting some rules and building on top of those, and then all of the artists working on that are going to bring their own sensitivity and ideas, and that's how I see the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also a mixture of like, you know, Batman, Gotham has always been very noir, very dark, very grounded, and it also has been taken to places where it's like super brutal, like
Super serious,
unforgiving,
Yeah.
very serious. And on the other hand, it also has the detective story vibe to it.
Yeah.
But then with like Gotham Knights, for example, you have these young kids coming in, and also the visuals there, they're a little bit tuned up. They have cool gear, awesome like glowing things. And before it was just like, you know, cape and cowl, very like simplified. So like playing with all these things must be just fun. Like you can take it in. Of course, there are restrictions that come with the whole thing, but you can you can really go wide and have fun with it because there is the superhero fantasy there, right?
If you love the brand, and
I love it.
of course, we all love the brand, so we want to make it justice. We you know, I never thought about it as pleasing the fan, you know, because I'm a fan, so I want to make it cool, you know. I also want to make it as awesome as possible, and you can pull it on some strings, and some Batmans are more dark, but there's also some colors and some fantasy over there that you can explore.
Yeah. Like you can look even from Barton. Right. Interpretation to Nolan. And to even recent Joker. Right. It's like the perspective is crazy, and all of them are pretty good. I must say that. So it's such a deep.
But it's hard, right? It's hard always to find something that you know will have these elements of things that you can relate to, but also introducing something new and maybe adding a different spin. The question is always, will it really bounce off of other people? They'll say like, oh yeah, this is cool. I could see this being like a version that works for me, because sometimes there's a lot of just like expectations that, you know, only can be like Batman can only look like this, Joker can only look like this, Penguin can only look like this, blah, 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 right?
Exactly, but what you said, I really like what you said about like not doing a fan service for the sake of doing fan service, right? I mean, there's a justice, there's an IP, and we should have a respect to it. But also, there's a market, all right? There's a PG, 13, 16, you name it. And there are concrete constraints that come with it. And very often that constraints, you know, like you have a PG, I would say, 13 for Barton movie, and then you have the recent Joker, which is absolutely, I wouldn't play for kids, right? Yeah. So finding the sweet spot, finding the balance, I think that's tough, right? That's difficult.
Well, there's always going to be boundaries in what we create, and if it's not on the rating side, it's going to be on the technical side.
Yeah, exactly.
But that makes us bounce from one side to the other, and then finding the sweet spot inside of that. It can also make us more creative at some point. You know, makes us think a little bit further than the first idea. We can extract a little bit, dig a little bit deeper onto what we can create to tell the story we want to tell.
Yeah.
Plus, games are huge, right? The technology is ever evolving. I feel like constantly, whenever you're working on a project, and big games, especially AAA games, like they take a lot of time to produce, and you feel like, you know, technology is also evolving at the time, so you kind of feel like you need to play catch up all the time.
Constantly catching up.
Someone once compared it like, you know, you're riding like in a train, but you're also building the tracks. And you're kind of like, okay, I need to catch up with all this stuff. So that's on the one hand, you know, you can play and change visions and do things and reiterate and stuff like that. But then when you're set, you also need to be kind of upping your ante and actually staying on top of the curve, right?
I think that's important. Sticking, you know, it's important to dig in and to allow time to be creative, but then we need to stick to a point. We need to make it happen because we could run in circle like that. And
Especially for 3D artists. And my background is 3D art. I'm not sure, but
Same.
Yeah, same, right? And then we noticed that you need to relearn things and you need to keep relearning. A friend of mine who's like really amazing 3D artist, he told me recently that he is now converted into a concept artist because that job is more stable. You know? You don't have to relearn software; it doesn't change. But
That's
like, yeah, if
interesting.
you look at what we do. It's every project something different, some new piece of software, some new technology you need to learn, and if you don't, you just fall behind, right? And, if your game looks like 10% less cool than the other game on the market, they're all gonna buy the other game, and
That's
then
true.
where are you
That's
gonna be at?
No.
That's true.
But still, the foundation being two strong IPs that you're representing here is just incredible, because those are things like both they draw us like instantly. Maybe not for everyone, but for us specifically, like both of us are like we love comic books, right? Either it's Marvel, DC, like this is the stuff we grew up on. Batman animated series like made me who I am, I would say, today, and kind of got me involved into this whole thing. Baldur's Gate, I mean, we played it. It was one of our company actually did localization for that game into Polish, and it was the first one that had Polish voiceovers with voiceover actors, and it kind of started this trend ages ago, and still it's somewhere in the back. And it's not only nostalgia; it's just something that, you know, if you don't have anything to compare and you grow up on these things, they build you and kind of the person you are today.
Exactly. Both of you said rules and boundaries. So and this is actually I really laugh.
Law and order.
I really laugh. I think it's necessary, and I'm very grateful actually to have boundaries at some point, because exactly what we've been just talking about. Like, you cannot tell people, and you both of you are art directors. You cannot go to people and say, hey, let's make Batman, right? Let's make Baldur's Gate. Like, okay, cool. And then you end up with a cocktail that it's not tasty. Right? So we need this to communicate, to be able to actually make a coherent vision, right? So that's the production. When the production starts, how do you set boundaries, set rules? How do you communicate? What are the core principles you look for in art, in communication with the team, with the vision? What's your take on it?
Well, I think as associate art director, or anyone in direction or leadership, our first job is to communicate with the team. It's not anymore to do art by myself. It's not. It's really to make sure that the team itself can reach out the full potential and produce the best art as possible. And there's all kinds of tools for that. Establishing the pillars of the art direction, establishing the basic rules. What are, in my case, what is our version of Gotham, and what's the precise guidelines? But few of them, very few of them, and they need to be very clear. And then after that, for all the different topics, there's going to be style guides and art bibles and a lot of work with concept art as well. I'm from a 3D background, environment background. Before that, we work a lot with concept to do exploration, and once this exploration is done, well, the concept are going to be guidelines and guideposts for the artist to emulate and to reach.
Awesome. If you could just list a few important principles that you were actually establishing for Gotham, for example.
Our version of Gotham, well, there's the historic roots as a East Coast American city. Well, there's nothing to do with the history from Europe, but it's one of the historic. Most historic city. It's very Gothic in its style. There's also contrast, heavy contrast. You know, there's a lot of richness and there's a lot of poverty in Gotham, and they kind of clash together, and verticality as well. I mentioned a lot of Gothic influence. On Gotham Knights, there's gliding, and there's a lot of navigation in the open world. So we need that verticality to make the city interesting. So I think that was those.
That's cool. Yeah, I see.
like my favorite thing in Gotham Knights is just getting on a motorcycle with one of the characters that you can play and just going through the city, because it's like it feels like you feel like Gotham has a very specific feeling. Like you feel the grit. You feel like some places are ran by specific gangs and stuff like that, and other places you can see like there was a lot of money put into those places and also like same for us in Cyberpunk. You have on the one hand poverty, you also have things which are more dystopian, like destructed and abandoned. Well, here it's kind of like, even if some places feel like they're a little bit abandoned, like you feel like there's like every corner, every alley, like something bad can happen to you.
But actually, the biggest difference, what I love in Batman, is actually not motorcycling, but it's actually gliding. Because then I feel this power fantasy. I feel that they don't see me, I see them, and I love this feeling. While in Night City, for example, the city rules everyone. Like that's the biggest antagonist. It can swallow you anytime it wants, and can just spit
cool
you up.
Because you can also like just be like on the ledges. You can be looking above to like all the bad guys and kind of like scouting them out. And we're like, I'm taking you out first. Now then you. It's like,
and it's just the feeling that you can take them, but you can also go home. You know what I mean? That's such a power fantasy. That I love this. That's Batman. You know what I mean? And so gliding is great.
And that we often we have this fantasy. You're the vigilante, you're the hero, and we want to give some opportunities for the player to have a strategic advantage and to be able to plan the attack and plan how they're gonna take out the bad guys. I'm glad that it resonates.
Yeah, that resonates a lot. That's the fantasy I've been looking for. Exactly. Awesome. All right. Let's swap to rules in Baldur's Gate.
Exactly.
Sure. But I think I can just circle back to just general art direction, art rules. Art direction is a process, and it's going to end at the end of the project normally. Obviously, pre-production sets a lot of things, and so it really starts with direction, right? You need to set up a path for the team and for the project that you think is going to work out. You need to set up rough references, what subjects are working on, right? Like where do you want to be? But then another important thing is benchmarking for us. So the benchmarking really defines the look, or the first kind of the first try at the look that you want to achieve. It's obviously not going to probably stay, but it's going to help everyone to get at the same level. So basically what I noticed that if you have good benchmarks, then even if a junior or intern comes into a team, they can handle it. Like we had interns working on heads for RPG, and you won't notice which one are those. Maybe cool. You will, I don't know.
That's really cool.
But and if that went right, then you kind of keep building on top, keep working on it. And obviously a lot of boundary is going to be defined by your engine, by the just technical constraints. We can't do everything we want to. I mean, there are limitations. Like we always want to add more polygons, cooler shaders, like more hair strands. And if we do, then the game's not going to run, unfortunately. So and each engine is different. Like we have our own in-house engine, which has lots of advantages, lots of disadvantages, of course. It had to like be kind of negotiated, and all of the graphical changes that we have to also do. Like at least 20% of art direction comes from the graphic programming.
That's true.
And that kind of shapes it, and it did shape it for us, by a lot. Of course, there is this other part which is like more artistic, and like how do we like things looking, and
like your specific shading, for example, right? You have very specific shading when it comes to character heads, let's say, and characters in design, and that really matches the overall fantasy of the IP, I believe. So here, in this case, I believe technology helps you, but
there was never kind of a goal to match it to the IP. I mean, I wouldn't know what that would mean in the D&D case, actually, because there's just is it a movies? Is it like the board game? Is it like, what is it, right? But for the skin shading and just technical things, so because we're making a huge game, and it's an iterative process, and we also come from like those classical RPGs, Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2. I worked on the second one, and basically, so we started building tools to support this huge world, but that also comes with a lot of constraints because we never build a character like as a character. You know, we never just say, yeah, let's model Shadowheart from start to finish. Shadowheart hair, head. Even sometimes textures, body, armor, all modeled by different people, concepted by different people, right? So like lots of hands involved into creating one character, and it is very cool from one side of things, but it sometimes feels really bad for the artists as well because they can't take ownership for everything. So yeah, I mean, and in our case, Shadowheart head or skull shape is exactly the same as everyone else's in the human female scenario because the hair needs to snap, because the helmets need to fit, because it's going to be rigged in a specific way, and there are tools that would help us do that. So all of that layered also kind of helps you to make a consistent look.
Yeah.
And you can you kind of can have more freedom then on your direction front a little bit as well, because there are all kinds of concept art styles. We actually are very like accepting like any of that, so we don't require concept artists to like match the style exactly to each other, because we know that once it gets into 3D, it's going to get into the engine. It's gonna match because it's just how it is. Like we're gonna make it match, come on. Yeah. So I mean there are lots of technical constraints that help, and obviously that we hate. So
I can imagine, because it's so easy to kind of finish with an art that is very repetitive, right? Because many reasons, as you just mentioned. So how did you actually stylize the characters that the actually basics, the foundation for characters, let's say females or whatever, right? Like Draconids are kind of the same, but then they look different. So you change the volume of the mesh, right? And what was the process actually to first have constraints, but at the same time make it not look repetitive?
Well, we start with not having constraints usually. So whenever we model like first of something, like a Dragonborn, it was a sketch in like ZBrush, right? And it was all just one piece, not separable like parts that we came up with later. And like once you nail the look, or like once you at least kind of certain that okay, this is what we want to do, then we started like disassembling it into pieces. So we knew that the base head shape needs to have the same topology, for example, and we were like just like holding our heads. It's like, how are we gonna do that? We had like maybe 3 heads at the moment concepted, well, in 3D already made, and then we were like, so now we need to make it customizable, and then we're like, it was far like too long in the project already. We were maybe like a year and a half before the release, something like that, maybe 2 years, and then we started thinking about it. But then, some solutions came pretty fast. We were like, okay, so this is a known. Sure, we're not gonna snap human topology on the Dragonborn. That was clear. Let's try that. Then we came up with somewhat of a base head that looks kind of funny. Like if you detach all of the attachment, it looks like a kind of a snaky kind of Dragonborn, somebody like a creature, and then you start assembling. Obviously, there are lots of like things that we just needed to fiddle with, like how would attachment blend with the skin. Skin has scales, so that's a little bit different. But it's sort of like, so you first do it without any constraints, and then you try to like fit it in the constraints, and like maybe push it like a little bit, left or right. Same with humans, actually. Like I mentioned, the skull shape is the same for everyone. I feel really sad about it because we're all different, we all have like different heights. It's really hard to make it work. But we start from just like freedom, and then we literally have something that is called head surgery in our tool set. That's
you
basically...
put gloves on top before doing it.
So
the head.
We roughly kind of like stay within the size, and then on your low poly you just press a button and it snaps it exactly like in the place with like a little bit of an offset. Obviously, if it's like too unique, it's gonna look really funny, like a big guy with like a really small skull.
I can imagine memes going around the studio, like, look at this face now.
So like technical art, shout out to, our technical artists who made the script. It helps us do those type of things. So like we model the head, and then, so there is this head surgery thing. It's also used for hair. There is like all kinds of assembly that happens, like with just eyeballs goes in, mouse interior goes in.
Awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. In depth.
You also have been talking about communicating with the team when the work is split. And people don't have that ownership. I believe that that's when you jump in, and you want to have a team that is passionate, motivated, that know the IP and wants to work on it. How do you work with your teams? How do you establish a great communication with the team? I think this is a very important thing. To be honest, in my opinion, it's even more important than actual skill. As you said, great boundaries. You have a junior, and then it's difficult to spot who made this head. Is it junior or a senior or expert? You name it, right? But generally, how do you work? How do you communicate? What's the attitude behind this all? It's super important. How do you work with your teams? What are your tools? What are the things that you praise?
But I think for me, it all starts with the team. I start to build a team before starting building a game, because if I know my team well, I know what they're capable of and how much I can push them. So a lot of time just spending time together, and I spend a lot of time also, explaining if there's a junior, teaching and coaching and mentoring is very much part of the job of a director and a lead, and then we can start talking about tasks and how to achieve them, and then what's going to be the goals and the guidelines. There's going to be the what are we doing? So making sure that it's clear enough, that the goal is clear enough, and the how, what's the boundaries and the technical way we're going to achieve it. But then giving also enough space for the person to be creative and to find their own solutions. So of course the amount of mentoring is not going to be the same for juniors versus advanced artists. All the advanced artists we want to give, they are there for a reason. So
exactly.
Leaning a lot on those folks, and trying to create also cooperation between the team. I want junior to learn from the whole team, and I want people to share what they find out. As we move towards during production, of course we're gonna have a set of guidelines with the engine and so on, and everybody's gonna find the best way to achieve this and that, and that's gonna be a very organic process.
You need to have a vision, set an overall playing field, and then let also people have space for creativity, which I think is super important. And also by knowing what the vision is and what the boundaries are, to kind of bring the whole thing together.
To me, one of the important pillars, kind of, in terms of communicating with the team, is building up trust. So that kind of starts from there. So you need to kind of make sure that your team trusts you through the feedback that you give them, because especially like in my case, I've been promoted within the company. I haven't came from another company. So usually when new people join, like you don't know you're a new lead or a new director, so you kind of automatically have a little bit more respect versus that's kind of in practice what happens versus you used to be my peer. Why are you giving feedback to me? Why do I need to listen now? So in my case, what I noticed is that so you start small, right? And there might be more senior people that you give feedback to, and what works is then when your feedback help them to improve their work, and then they see it And then they look at like, okay, that's what I was doing like 3 months ago without your input.
That's the journey,
That's what I do now. And that changes everything. So if you manage to establish that with your team, then they're going to trust you more, they're going to listen to you more, and they're going to actually implement more of your feedback. So that really makes it really good.
That's the best way, actually.
Yeah.
By the street cred.
And honestly, speaking of that, I think you need to pitch in sometimes as well, whether you're a director or a lead. If you are not hands-on, then you kind of a bit lose touch. So you need to get in the engine, you need to fix some bugs, you need to whenever there are this, strike teams that need to fix this special thing, pitch in. So show them that you're there for them and you're one of them. So it's kind of also comes down to keeping the structure a little bit flatter. Yeah, sure, we have managers, we have directors, we have juniors, seniors, intermediates, but at the end of the day, I want my juniors to also give feedback to my seniors.
Exactly.
That's
if
really
they
cool.
spot
That's nice.
stuff, we have this common meeting where we just share our work and then give feedback, give our opinions. So it's very informal. And let's say lots of things are being voiced. You don't have to follow everything, but it might give you an idea that maybe you are not there with your work. So that, for example, after this meeting, let's say senior artist got some feedback, some just random feedback from different people on the team, and we then sync up at some point, and then we kind of actually send check, right? Okay, this was a really good point. I think nobody noticed that previously, so let's do that. Let's actually fix that. Or sometimes it's just, it doesn't work out. Maybe sometimes they're not on point, and that's also okay. But we don't want to silence people. We don't want, just art director or lead to give you feedback. It needs to be a process. You need to get used to feedback, in fact.
Exactly.
That's what I always loved about art. Artists are able to critique their own work, and not in a sense where you're telling something that they're doing something wrong per se, but to kind of give a different perspective, because I feel like artists always have a set vision, even when they do a lot of there's conceptual work where we kind of see where we can take certain arts or characters or whatever. But then you have the place where everybody kind of pitches in and adds something, and then you're like, oh, I haven't thought about that, or that this is a cool direction we could go, and then it feels like it's really a team bringing it all together. And I also like what you mentioned, it's just street cred. You need to show you have the skills, but also having everyone pitch in and being hands-on, even the people who are in leadership positions, is super important, because if you're a junior or you're starting out, you're seeing that everybody's kind of, putting their sleeves up and going to work on it, which is amazing.
That's really nice, but definitely it requires this culture.
Yeah.
Right? That if you have no culture, that people, and of course that's the difference between being a reviewer or just being an opinionated person, right? But letting people speak up, it is super valuable. So talking about juniors, because we are at Promised Land Art Festival, and we are united in art, right? And people come here also to listen, to have some kind of a direction, to listen to the new approach, new perspective.
Just seeing how others do things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're hiring juniors, for example. What you're looking for? What is the feedback on the interview you give people? Because they all struggle, you probably remember, I remember, my first portfolio, my first CV, my first demo reel. It is always tough to set something that kind of looks right, and you then apply for the job. And what would you actually give? What kind of an advice would you give to the people that are still struggling or building the portfolio? If you could share anything.
Well, in the interview, just as we spoke, I'm looking for juniors and interns that are open to feedback. How are they going to react to feedback? Is it going to be defensive, or are they going to be happy to hear opinions? And that's gonna say a lot on how they're gonna grow. If you take on advice and you use it to move forward and become better, well, we can coach you. we can work on that, because of course there's going to be work to do. If someone is defensive, well, it's gonna be more difficult to improve.
Yeah.
So that's the first part, and then of course we're not looking for variety of stuff. Where I'm looking for the possibility for greatness. So something very small, but very well done. You know, we need the
like
same level of quality.
Something you can build on, probably, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Quality over quantity as well.
Absolutely.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah.
That's super important because sometimes people think that's just like a matter of
3 minutes of animation demo reel and it's like 3
yeah.
minutes of like fake animation. It's good to have, let's say, 2 shots. You know,
Exactly.
like, really.
And the last thing, a process. Did you think about it? Why did you make that choice?
Yeah,
Super
so
important.
like a mindful decision making.
decisions,
Yeah.
There's a thought process
there's a
behind
thought-
them, not as
exactly.
just
It's
like,
not a
you know,
randomness, right?
Yeah. Or sometimes just doing the same thing over and over, but a little bit differently.
Yeah.
The reality of the industry is, sorry for juniors who apply, but the competition is really, really high.
Yes.
And companies like ours are spoiled by, having really, really good interns and juniors. And basically, now there are lots of schools emerging and schools that existed for some years already that provide those like educational backgrounds. In case of Larian that we can trust, like we've so we've been like just chatting informally previously, and it turns out in Ghent team we were spread out, but in Ghent team all of the character artists come from the same school. So there are 5 of us, and we all come from the same school, DAI Hovest in Belgium. And that shows you that, schools are doing something right these days. And basically they prep students, and those students then become young professionals. So definitely if you are looking into like stepping into the industry, I could recommend following a course at least. It could be an online course. It could be a bachelor's degree. I see more and more juniors with bachelor's degrees that are really hard to compete with. So maybe 10 years ago, you could just spend 3 months just like in your basement doing ZBrush. Right now, probably not.
Yeah.
So we expect portfolios. We expect a few pieces on your portfolios. Or if it's a one piece, it's got to be really good to get hired, especially for a junior position. I'm not sure if you guys do internships programs. We do. Internships is when so you study somewhere and then you basically come in to a studio for a couple of months. We train you, you kind of try to work in a production environment, and it's sort of beneficial for both parties. And then that is a really easy path to junior. And we've been spoiled so much by our interns that we almost never hire junior from the street. So if we would hire junior, you got to be better than our interns after the internship, right? Very hard to make. Although there is a person on our team that actually did it. So so it's not impossible 100%, but it's just hard, right? So if we keep kind of doing advices, I definitely advise internship programs. I advise education these days. I think this is like an advice of 2024.
Exactly.
So it's hard, it's competitive, but then don't give up, and if you keep working, gonna get there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, Émilie, you do teaching and mentoring, if I'm not mistaken, in 3D and environment.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you have this thing that where you see people and their work, and you're like, I see something there? Do you is it more like a handpicking people, or is it more about like sharing the knowledge with everybody?
Well, of course, I'm gonna spot. We spot what's
Potential.
Yeah, potential. But I like the process of teaching. Is I think just very rewarding.
Just building people and bringing people up, right?
Yeah, and you how do you say? The relationship building with the student. It's just nice to they create something, and I try to nudge them in a way, in another, and you see the growing and the improvement. So that's very rewarding to do, and just for myself, I think it keeps me on my toe.
Yeah, it keeps you sharp, right?
Exactly. There's not a better way to know if you understand something than to explain it. So that's I think that's important for me in that regard.
Yeah, during Promised Land, we have portfolio reviews. And every year, whenever I ask the reviewees, when they're going through people's portfolios, doesn't matter what it is, from concept to 3D to animation, they always say that they feel like every year the bar is just being
Yeah.
pushed. And some people who come here have, experience for like, I don't know, 20 years in some fields. And they feel like, when they were starting out, it was like very, very basic. You had to learn from like books, for example, or from like whatever. And now you have so many platforms. Like you can like, some people just are like, yeah, I just message people and bother them on Discord or whatever, just to get feedback about stuff. Like information flow now is just, it's instant, it's incredible. Thanks to this, people who are starting out, their work is already a couple notches higher than when someone was starting
like
out.
What how it was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember like ordering one DVD from Gnomon from US with my last money I had.
Well, there was no school program or barely school program. Now the student doing a bachelor, they do 3D for 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did a couple of months of program schools, and we were on a merry way to the industry. But now it's
tough. Yeah, it's more people. It requires perseverance right now to actually overcome it. This fun fact actually regarding the portfolio reviews, there is one student that comes here for open day that happened yesterday. It was the 3rd year in the row, and she wants to be an animator. I used to be an animator. By heart, I am still.
Always.
Yeah, and that's incredible because she comes, she tries to spot me and say, hey, I progressed over last year. Can you give me a feedback? And literally, year to year, she comes to me and she shows the portfolio. And, it used to be 1 shot, right now it's 2. And I see that she takes all the feedback. And I had a meeting with her yesterday. And the portfolio, I'm sure that next year she will get a job. You know what I mean? And you can tell that there are some people that know, for example, how networking is important, how like spotting and also being picky when it comes to choosing the person that gives you a feedback, right? Like really, this is also important. People tend to forget that looking for guidance, looking for direction is also a part of the whole equation when it comes to like looking for finding a job, right? That's also super important nowadays, especially when you have like hundreds. It's like a little bit with like a football. Everyone can kick a ball. You know what I mean? But not everyone is a Ronaldo, right? You know what I mean? Like it's tough.
And drafting is hard because you have a big pool to choose from.
Yeah.
Actually, following up about picking, and that's something Émilie mentioned as well, I think. So like spreading out and trying different styles might not be the best idea if you're a student or if you're starting out. Like pick a couple of companies that you want to apply for and make sure that these companies are roughly like kind of sharing the same pool of talent.
Exactly.
Because we don't expect to see like from one artist like, okay, the stylized piece or like, the huge cinematic piece. We are shopping for people, to be honest. We want to like get something that is relevant for what we're doing right now. And that always come down to that. So we don't want to see like, here is something that I did for a mobile game. This is my concept art sketches. And this is like, I tried the tree in Speed 3. It's like, okay, but like... I need a character artist or like specific prop artist. It's good to be picky. So, and it's actually good to ask, like first to ask yourself, what do you want to do, right? You can't be everything. You can't be animator and character artist and like audio designer. You need to pick. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
I agree. I often give that advice to students to very focus on what you want to do. And usually it pays off because you're going to spend a lot of energy to learn and make sure that the piece is as nice as possible. And you're going to target companies or projects you're going to want to work on. And that pays off because quality is gonna hit the mark. And even if it's not going to work in that particular company, other places are going to see the quality and there's going to be opening of doors.
I think it's also hard for aspiring artists because they want to go as wide as possible. They really want to try a little bit of everything and try to pull together like a whole thing. Well, like you said, you need to kind of choose a field that you kind of point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to slowly wrap up the conversation and ask like a general question, like what inspires you? on a day-to-day basis? Is it people? Is it the project? Is it a mixture of all these things? Maybe something different. Like, what inspires you to come in every day?
Promised Land.
Yeah, definitely.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, events are very inspiring for me. I think like hearing other insights from artists, it's amazing. Like you look like at lectures. I mean, I've been to those kinds of events, not a lot, but like a couple of events. And that's definitely one of the sources. Movies, another one, just like analyzing like the style and the fantasy behind it and all that.
Love it.
Any media. For me personally, something that is maybe not super common for character artists, but I like fashion, so I watch some fashion shows. It's I don't think there is enough fashion in character art, specifically in games.
Yeah.
It's just like everyone's wearing the same type of jeans and jacket, so we need to improve it, guys. But it can be anything really. But those are like kind of the pillars, like the media, fashion for me, fine arts, of course.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think it's important to get influenced and inspired by other type of media than games, of course. We play the other games and we geek out on that. And it's,
Of course.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, looking at fine art, going to museum, looking at what other type of media is doing is super important. So we don't just redo the same thing all over again, but trying to look at the creativity of other types of artists.
Just going outside of your bubble that you're kind of used to.
Actually, maybe music as well. So we've been to a concert recently that was kind of a BG3 music concert hosted by our composer, Bobby.
Borislav,
Borislav Slavov. Shout out. It was an hour of just like music from the game. So there were some was lyrics, but some it was like orchestra. And we were sitting like together with like a couple of friends from Larian, and then we synced up, and then we were like just like sharing the ideas for some fantasy things, scenarios, like ideas for like future projects or like
That's really cool.
characters or anything, just like simple things that we would want to work on, like even outside of work. And it all gave us some inspiration, this music, this experience. I think just music, not necessarily pop music, but maybe for some people also that. Like when you listen, when you just space out, you get some of this like ideas that just come through your head.
Yeah. Actually, music and Borislav, right?
Yes.
I've just actually had a chance to meet him like a few weeks ago in Bucharest. We've been on one of the events there. Amazing guy, right? Definitely super passionate guy, and he's all about telling you the story with the music, which is true, right? Like probably every person, like we know the industry, we've been working in games, and everyone knows how much of a music is actually elevating the experience as soon as it drops in.
Of course,
it's like day and night, sometimes, and Borislav knows that very well. So yeah, good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you then.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And
Thank
enjoy
you so
the
much
It's been
event.
awesome talking with you. I wish we could talk more, but
Yeah. Thank you so much and enjoy the event.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for watching, and we hope that you did enjoy this episode as much as we did.
It was an amazing one. And as always, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Let us know what you're thinking about the episodes. And as always, let's stay in touch, and we'll see you in the next one.